new episode of biology program for the third secondary grade. اهلا بيكم ابنائنا وبناتنا طلاب وطلبات الثانويه العامه في حلقه جديده لماده البيولوجي. الحقيقه قبل بدايه الحلقه برحب بمستر يحيى سالم the expert of biology in the Ministry of Education. اهلا بك مستر يحيى.
اهلا بحضرتك مستر شريف.
نورتنا ودايما منورنا ان شاء الله.
الله يبارك في حضرتك.
الحقيقه الحلقه اللي فاتت احنا كنا بدينا في الهرمونال كوردينيشن شابتر 2 وبدينا بالماستر جلاند which is the pituitary gland. قلنا the pituitary gland consists of two main parts, adenohypophysis and neurohypophysis. The adenohypophysis consists of anterior lobe and the middle lobe, but the neurohypophysis consists of the posterior lobe and the infundibular. قلنا لحضراتكم ان الادينوهايبوفيزيس ده بيعمل سكريشن للسكس هرمونز، لكن النيوروهايبوفيزيس secretes about two hormones. The most famous hormone which is secreted from the pituitary gland is the growth hormone, which is responsible for the assimilation of the food, especially protein, and the growth of the skeletal system. So, Mr. Yahya, what about the hypersecretion and the hyposecretion of the growth hormone in children? For example,
in children, Mr. Actually, this hormone is very important because it has two effects. Whenever it is secreted in hypersecretion, in hyposecretion. In hypersecretion in childhood, it causes what is called the gigantism.
Yes.
Okay. يعني بتسبب بعد كده حاجه اسمها العملاقه، الانسان بيبقى عملاق لما بيكبر وزي كده. خلاص whenever it's during childhood it is hyposecretion، يعني الافراز بتاعه بيبقى قليل، بيبقى قليل جدا بسبب حاجه اسمها dwarfism، يعني بيبقى صغير في الحجم وبيبقى النمو بتاعه مش طبيعي، معدل الطبيعي للنمو بتاعه بيبقى مختلف تماما عن الاصلي.
Yes, what about the hypersecretion of the growth hormone in adult?
In adult, a case is called acromegaly.
Yes, what about the symptoms?
The acromegaly, it is a case in which the extremes of the body becomes larger and larger. The face and the lower jaw and the two hands, the fingers and the feet، يعني الأقدام كلها becomes more and more bigger، يعني بتكبر في الحجم because the growth hormone affects number one the growth of the bones and also the metabolism of proteins, Mr.
Of course. This is the first famous hormone that's secreted from the pituitary gland, which is the growth hormone. But a group of hormones called pituitary trophenes, they are about 5 hormones. As a thyroid stimulating hormone or thyrotrophin, which stimulates the thyroid gland to secrete its hormones, and also the adrenocorticotrophic hormone or ACTH hormone, which stimulates the adrenal cortex to secrete its hormones. The FSH hormone, which is called the follicle stimulating hormone, which stimulates the ovary to produce gravine follicles that's responsible for the secretion of estrogen hormone. And the luteinizing hormones that stimulates the gravine follicle to release the mature ovum and change it into corpus luteum that secrete the progesterone hormone. But what about the effect of LH and the FSH hormone in the males, Mr. Yahya?
Actually, Mr. FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, in case of females, it stimulates the growth of the follicle, gravine follicle, and also the ovarian follicle, the formation on the growth of two of the follicles, the gravine follicle and the ovarian follicle. And also,
what's the difference between them?
The gravine follicle, the ovarian follicle is the first part, يعني the first follicle that surround the ovule in the first stage of the formation of ovary. But later, the gravine follicle, it's the development or developed part of the ovum that is released during releasing of the 14th day.
Yes, but the question can ask about the effect of FSH hormone and the LH hormone in males, not in females.
In males, FSH in males, it is responsible for, spermatogenesis or formation of sperms, and also responsible for formation of the prostate gland.
And seminiferous tubules also.
Yeah, the seminiferous tubules, Mr.
Yes. But what about the LH hormone?
LH hormone is responsible for releasing of the testosterone hormone from the interstitial cells.
Yes, of course, and the testosterone or the male hormones responsible for the appearance of the male secondary sexual characters. يبقى احنا كده واحنا بنذاكر هنعرف ان احنا قلنا ان في 6 هرمونز are secreted from the adenohypophysis. اتكلمنا عن الجروس هرمون لوحده، وبعدين قلنا في 4 بنقول عليهم pituitary trophins زي ال FSH وال LH والثايرويد ستيميوليتنج هرمون والادرينوكورتيكوتروفيك هرمون. بقى لنا هرمون البرولاكتين هرمون. What about the prolactin, which is also called the lactogenic hormone, Mr. Yahya?
Actually, Mr., it is the hormone that it's secreted from the first part of the pituitary gland or the anterior lobe, which is very important for formation of milk of the mammalian gland. It is responsible for stimulation of formation of milk from the mammalian glands.
Yes, that stimulates the mammary gland to secrete milk in the mammalian animals. But the neurohypophysis secretes 2 hormones that are produced from the hypothalamus, which act as a part connect between the nervous system and the endocrine gland system. The 2 hormones which are secreted from the hypothalamus is the antidiuretic hormone or vasopressin hormone and also the oxytocin hormone. Mr. Yahya, can you talk about the action of the antidiuretic hormone or the ADH hormone?
Concerning to ADH, which is called antidiuretic hormone. Sorry, Mr. Antidiuretic hormone. This means that it is responsible for reabsorption of water again from the kidney tubules.
Yes.
And this means that it is responsible for keeping the pressure of the blood higher. So it keeps so it is called the vasopressin hormone. It is responsible for keeping the higher pressure of of the blood, and also responsible for reabsorption of water again from the tubules of the kidney, Mr.
Of course. To reduce or to reabsorb a great amount of water from the nephrons or the tubules of the kidney that need to increase the blood pressure in the kidney. The increasing of the blood pressure increase the reabsorption of water continuously through the first and the second called the tubules in the nephron, so that decrease the amount of water in urine, so that decrease the amount of urine. Therefore, the hormone is called the antidiuretic hormone. But what about the oxytocin hormone?
Concerning to oxytocin hormone, it is the hormone responsible for making the uterine walls contract during the delivery. So the doctors use it for making the uterus walls to contract to release the baby outside the body. So it is used in the form of hormones to be injected for the woman.
And also stimulate the mammary gland
to
Mr. release the milk from inside the mammary
That's
glands.
it, Mr., as we said the last time.
Yes, of course. The 2 hormones that secreted from the hypothalamus is the oxytocin hormone and the antidiuretic hormone. That's the 8 hormones that secreted from the pituitary gland, but the second gland is the thyroid gland, which is responsible for the secretion of 2 hormones. The first is the thyroxine hormone and the second is the calcitonin hormone. Mr. Yahya, would you explain the function of the thyroxine hormone?
Concerning to thyroxine hormone, it's very important because it is responsible for the basal metabolic rates of the body. Basal المعدل الأيض الغذائي اللي موجود في الجسم.
أساسي.
Yes, أو الأساسي اللي موجود في الجسم. So it is responsible for the basal metabolic rates of the body. Number 2, it is responsible for the gross mental and physical growth of the body. So it is very important, and also is responsible for maintaining of the skin and the hair. So it is very important, Mr.
Okay, so the thyroxine hormone as a hormone that located or present inside the blood with a certain concentration, but the hypersecretion of the thyroxine, which is called hyperthyroidism, that leads to the ectophthalmic goiter. But the hypersecretion of thyroxine, which is called the hypothyroidism, that leads to the simple goiter. The complication of the simple goiter is bretinism in children and myxoedema in adults. But the hypersecretion or the hypothyroidism leads to the ectophthalmic goiter. But the third gland is called the parathyroid glands. Mr. Yahya, what about the structure of the parathyroid glands?
Really, Mr., concerning to the parathyroid gland, it is composed of 4 different or 4 similar lobes or scattered around the thyroid gland, okay? it is consisted of 4 ones located on the two sides of the thyroid gland. It is responsible, the parathyroid gland, it is responsible for secretion of a hormone, parathyroid. It is responsible for the secretion of the hormone which is called the parathyroid hormone.
Yes, parathyroid hormone antagonizes the action of the calcitonin hormone. The calcitonin hormone decreases the calcium level in blood by the precipitation of the excess amount of calcium ion from the blood on bones. But the parathyroid hormone releases the calcium level, increase the calcium level in blood by releasing the calcium ions from the bones. So what about the hyperparathyroidism and the hypoparathyroidism, Mr. Yahya?
Actually, I found that there is a relationship between the concentration of calcium ions in the blood and the concentration of the parathyroid hormone. There is a relationship between both of them. Whenever the concentration of parathyroid hormone increases, the calcium, this means that the calcium ions in the blood increases. Whenever the calcium ions decreases, this means that the parathyroid hormone decreases. So there is a relationship between both of them, Mr.
Yes, but what about the hyperparathyroidism? What are the symptoms of the hyperparathyroidism?
Really, hyperparathyroidism causes some diseases, okay? It causes, you know, Mr., it is responsible for grabbing the calcium ions from the bones. So this makes the bones fragile and soft, and this may cause bone softness, Mr.
Yes, of course. So the parathyroid hormone responsible for increasing the calcium level in blood. So that means the releasing of the calcium ion from the bones increase, and the increase the calcium level in blood. That means the kidney will release the excess amount of calcium ions outside the body with the urine. By the continuous secretion of the parathyroid hormone and the increase the calcium level in blood and the increase the releasing of the calcium ions by the kidney outside the body, that leads to brittle bones or soft bones. But the deficiency of parathyroid hormone or the hypoparathyroidism, Mr. Yahya, what about its symptoms?
Its symptoms, it causes something is called the convulsions of the muscles. You know, convulsions, Mr. تقلصات في العضلات. And also the muscle spasms.
Yes.
Muscle
Painful
spasms,
yes.
yeah. But this is because it is responsible, you know, Mr., that calcium ions are very important for transportation of nerve messages between the nerve and the muscle. So whenever there is deficiency in the calcium ions, so the transporting of the nervous messages between the nerve and the muscle will not be transported. So there is a deficiency. So it causes convulsions and also causes spasms, Mr.
Yes. So the calcium ions are very important because we remember that the calcium pump push calcium ions on the vesicles through the synapse. The synapse connect between nerve and the nerve, or nerve and the gland, or nerve and the muscle. So the deficiency of calcium ions in blood, that means the amount of calcium ions that released from the calcium pump through the vesicles that allow some vesicles to discharge its contents, which is a style column through the synaptic cleft, but the others is not. That leads to the painful muscle spasms of the muscle that's leads to or that's act as a result of deficiency of the calcium ions in blood. هنيجي نوصل دلوقتي للفورث gland, Mr. Yahya, which is called the adrenal gland or suprarenal gland. Why the adrenal gland is called the suprarenal gland?
This is because it's a location, Mr. Because it is located over the two kidneys. So it is called the suprarenal gland. So it is called the suprarenal gland because it's secretion, so its position or its location over the two kidneys, Mr.
But also it's called the emotional gland also.
Yes.
Yes, because it's responsible for the allow the body to facing the critical situation at the fighting, and the other critical situation.
This is right, Mr.
But the adrenal gland as an anatomical structure consists of 2 layers. What about the 2 layers that form the adrenal gland?
Really, it is composed of 2 main parts.
Yes, would you draw the structure of the adrenal
yes,
gland?
Mr.
Yes.
Whenever we want to dissect the suprarenal gland, okay, we would say that it is composed of outer part and inner part. Okay, this is just diagram for illustration. This is transverse section. The outer part is called the cortex, mister. Okay, yes. The outer part over here is called the cortex. And the inner part is called the amygdala. And this part, which is the cover, is called the capsule, mister. Yes. So it is composed of two main parts, which is called the medulla and cortex, mister.
Yes, the cortex secretes three types of, or three groups of hormones as the glucocorticoids, mineralocorticoids, and sex hormones.
That's it.
What about the glucocorticoids?
Glucocorticoids, it's a group of hormones that are secreted by the cortex of the adrenal glands, okay? It is responsible for metabolism of glucose and carbohydrates. So whenever there is a disturbance of the glucocorticoids, it may cause some diseases, mister. So it is responsible for metabolism of glucose and its carbohydrates and glucose, mister.
Yes, so the cortisone
is like cortisone
and
yes, corticosterone.
Yes, cortisone. That means the hormones that are secreted from the zone of cortex of adrenal gland. So that's the cortisone, and also the same action as a corticosterone hormone, both of them responsible for the assimilation of carbohydrates inside the body. But what about the mineralocorticoids, Mr. Yahya?
Mineralocorticoids, they are a group, or it is a group of hormones that are responsible for maintaining the concentration of some ions or minerals inside our bodies. Here is an example. Concerning to sodium, it is very important for our body's activities, okay? Whenever it decreases in the body, there are some disturbances takes place inside our body. So these hormones are responsible for reabsorption of sodium again.
The most famous one is the aldosterone hormone.
Yeah, which is aldosterone, which is responsible for reabsorption of sodium again when it's a secretion, when its concentration inside our bodies is not normal. But whenever the concentration of potassium is higher than its real concentration, it is responsible for getting rid of the excess of potassium ions.
So that means the aldosterone hormone is the hormone that's responsible for the controlling the concentration of sodium and potassium ions, or increase the sodium ion and decrease the potassium ion until reaches the normal concentration of sodium and potassium ions. So that's the mineralocorticoids as the aldosterone hormone. But what about the sex hormones, Mr. Yahya?
Really, Mr. Sex hormones are the hormones which are secreted from the cortex of the adrenal glands. Whenever you're talking about the sex hormones, you're talking about mainly about the sex hormones which are secreted from the gonads. You know that, Mr., our bodies as females or males contains gonads. Gonads in females are responsible for secretion of some hormones which are progesterone and estrogen. Progesterone and estrogen in females. But concerning to males, they are responsible, the two testes are responsible for secretion of that testosterone, which is called the androgen. Androsterone and testosterone, both of them are called androgen. These are the real or the main ones. But concerning to the cortex of the adrenal, it is responsible for secretion of another or extra hormones, or called the sex hormones. They are responsible for increasing the male or female sex characters, or it is responsible for maintaining the characters of sex in males and females. But whenever there is disturbance in the concentration between the sex hormones which are secreted from the two testes and ovaries, and the secretion of the hormones which are secreted from the adrenal gland, there is some disturbance takes place, is like what is called muscularization in females. Muscularization, you know, muscularization, this means that انه هيبدأ تظهر أعراض الذكورة على البنت.
Appearance of some of male secondary sexual characters, that due to the presence of certain tumors in the cortex of adrenal gland.
Yes, and also feminization in case of males. يعني ممكن تظهر أعراض الأنوثة على الولد بسبب disturbance in this case, and also may cause whenever there is disturbance between both of them, it may cause atrophy of the gonads. Atrophy يعني ضمور.
Yes.
ضمور الجونتس اللي هي المناسل.
Yes. But the medulla of the adrenal gland responsible for the secretion of adrenaline and noradrenaline hormone. What about the action of or the function of both of them?
Adrenaline and noradrenaline actually they are very, very important hormones. They are called the emergency hormones, mister, because they are responsible for keeping our body ready for the emergency situations. It's like whenever you were exposed to fear, to fight, for muscular exercises. Your body needs more and more energy. So how can we get, or could we get the more and more energy by these hormones, adrenaline and noradrenaline? Both of them are responsible for, number one, increasing our heartbeats, to provide our body with the blood that carry oxygen gas and food. And also it is responsible for increasing our respiration rate, يعني تزود معدل التنفس, and also responsible for increasing the metabolic rates of glucose.
Yes.
Because our bodies are exposed to fear, to fight, to emergency situation. استاذنك مستر شريف، انا سمعت قصه بسيطه خالص، انه كان في امراه هنديه وقع على ابنها، رجل ابنها شجره تزن تقريبا حوالي 500 كيلو، فبكل هدوء، او مش بكل هدوء يعني بكل امكانيه، قامت شايله هي الشجره من على رجل ابنها وشالتها ودتها بعيد. طب ده بسبب ايه؟ بسبب emergency situation اللي هي فيها. الخوف والرعب اللي كانت موجوده فيه بشده جدا خلى الهرمون الادرينالين والنور ادرينالين ده يزيد، كمان الهارت بيتس. لو انا داخل الامتحان وانا مخضوض وكده، ممكن تلاقي ان الهارت بيتس بتاعتي بتزيد بسبب الادرينالين والنور ادرينالين which are secreted from the adrenal gland from the medulla، الجزء اللي هو السنتر.
هو الحقيقه الشجره كانت نص طن، فاحتاجنا ست هنديه. اعتقد لو هي 2 طن احتاج واحده مصريه تقدر تشيلها في ثانيه.
هي تقدر تشيلها من غير الهرمونز يا مستر.
طيب احنا دلوقتي هنبدا نشوف مجموعه، يعني نشوف جلاند كمان غير يعني احنا كنا اتكلمنا عن بيتيوتري جلاند وعن ثايرويد جلاند، وبعد كده اتكلمنا عن بارا ثايرويد جلاند، واتكلمنا عن الادرينال جلاند. هنتكلم دلوقتي عن mixed gland as a pancreas. Pancreas is considered as a mixed gland, Mr. Yahya?
Yes, Mr. Pancreas. Concerning to pancreas, it's considered as one of the most important glands inside our bodies because it represents two glands in one just organ. It is composed of 2 different tissues. The first tissue acts as exocrine or exocrine gland, and the second tissue acts as endocrine or endocrine glands, because the pancreas contains Acini cells. Acini cells, that's a group of cells responsible for production of what is called the digestive enzymes, which is trypsinogen, whatever, okay, which is taken, yes, the gastric juice, which is taken in the secondary. اللي احنا درسناها قبل كده في secondary. Pancreatic juice,
yes.
which is secreted to the duodenum through a duct. So it is called here, it is duct gland, it is exocrine gland. يعني هي بتفرز الافراز بتاعها من خلال القناه اللي هي digestive juice.
Pancreatic duct.
So it is pancreatic duct. Yes, right. That's it, mister. But concerning to the other part, which is called the endocrine gland, the pancreas secretes its hormones, which are 2 main hormones, which are one of them is very famous one, which is insulin.
Because of the presence of 2 groups of glands, alpha and beta.
Yes, that's it, mister. Insulin and glucagon. Insulin is secreted from a group of cells which is called the beta cells.
Yes.
And alpha cells are responsible for secretion of glucagon. Both glucagon hormone. Both of them are called the cells which are responsible for the secretion of the hormones that are responsible for controlling the glucose sugar inside our bodies.
Yes, so the glucagon and the insulin antagonize each other because
Yes.
the insulin decrease the calcium level in blood, but the glucagon increase the calcium level in blood. But the deficiency of the insulin hormone leads to the diabetes mellitus, which act as a very famous
Case.
disease. Yes.
some of them say that it is case مستر. عجبني قوي واحد انا سمعته على التلفزيون بيقول انا مش مريض سكر، انا عندي حالة سكر. هو من جواه عنده جينات متفائلة، فهو مبسوط بيقول انا مش مريض سكر، ده انا عندي حالة سكر، لانه السكر هو ما اعتبرهوش ان هو مرض، لانه خلاص مجرد ان هو ياخد الانسولين انتهى الموضوع.
ده
خلاص
تقدر تعتبره راجل عسل بصراحة.
هو راجل متفائل، جيناته متفائلة يا مستر.
طيب مستر، احنا لو حبينا نتكلم عن ال symptoms of diabetes mellitus, what about the symptoms of the disease?
Really, Mr. The main reason for that disease or sorry that case الحالة ديت السبب الأساسي بتاعها اللي هو decrease of the secretion of the insulin hormone. يعني الانسولين هرمون ده مش موجود عندنا كتير في الجسم وبالتالي في مشكلة. So what are the symptoms of that disease or that case? Number one, more and more urination, Mr. Because the
Extra
concentration,
Yes.
because the concentration of glucose inside our urine increases. This means that I want to go to bathroom more times. يعني بروح الحمام كتير. Number two, thirst sensation. thirst sensation إحساس بالعطش كل شوية، إحساس بالعطش. عشان كده بتبقى في مشكلة إنه أنا كل شوية داخل الحمام علشان إنه في عنده مشكلة في إنه إيه بيخش الحمام كتير، لانه بيعطش كتير عشان هو بيخش الحمام كتير. كمان ال presence of sugar, glucose or glucose sugar inside in the blood, sorry, in the urine and also in the blood. يعني ارتفاع نسبة السكر بتبقى في البول وكمان بتبقى في البلاد مستر.
هو الحقيقة الانسولين ده هو اللي مسؤول عن الجيتس اوف جلوكوز on the cell membrane and the plasma membrane. يعني باختصار على البلازما membrane of blood capillaries and the plasma membrane of the other body cells. The presence of insulin means opening the gates of glucose to allow the glucose to get out from the body and get through the membrane or the cell membrane to allow the cell to release or to oxidize the glucose to release energy, and also stimulate the hepatic cells or the liver cells to store the excess amount of glucose into glycogen. طيب يبقى احنا عندنا انسولين فتح لي الجيتس او البوابات بتاعه الجلوكوز، الجلوكوز عدى بسرعه، خرج من البلاد كابيلاريس فراح للسيلز وراح للليفر. طب لو انا ما عنديش انسولين هتفضل الجيتس مقفوله، هيفضل الجلوكوز الكونسنتريشن بتاعه في البلاد عالي وفي الجسم قليل، ما راحش للجسم لان الجيتس بتاعت الجلوكوز مقفوله. يبقى في الحاله دي انا عندي الاوسموتيك فاليو بتاع البلاد عالي قوي، يعني في جلوكوز عالي، يعني ده بيقلل الكونسنتريشن اوف ووتر. علشان كده الناس بتحس ان هو عطشان جدا عايز يشرب ميه، مش علشان الميه قليله لكن علشان الكونسنتريشن اوف ووتر قليل، لان الجلوكوز كونسنتريشن عالي فيضطر يشرب ميه كتير. بس لما يشرب ميه كتير في الحاله دي انا بقى عندي الميه اكتر من العادي في البلد، يبقى انا عندي في سيستم مسؤول عن الحكايه دي اللي هو اليورينري سيستم. فتيجي الكادنس تاخد الاكسس اماونت اوف ووتر اللي هو زياده حقيقي في البلد، تاخده تخرجه من الجسم، وهي بتخرجه بيزيد الكونسنتريشن اوف جلوكوز تاني، يبقى هو هيحس بالثيرست تاني، هيشرب تاني، الكدني هتخرجه تاني، فبنفضل في سايكل دايره كده اهو. طالما الجلوكوز عالي انا عطشان، طالما انا شربت الميه اللي انا شربتها دي حقيقي ميه زايده، لان هو ما كانش الميه ناقصه، ده كان الجلوكوز هو اللي عالي، فالكدني خرجت لي الجلوكوز بره، يخرج الجلوكوز بره يرجع يزيد، خرجت لي الووتر بره، وبالتالي يرجع الجلوكوز ليفل يزيد تاني، فنفضل في الدايره دي باستمرار لغايه ما ياخد حقنه الانسولين. لما ياخد حقنه الانسولين الجيتس بتاعه الجلوكوز هتتفتح، الجلوكوز هيخرج يروح للسيلز ويروح للهيباتيك سيلز، البادي سيلز هتعمل اوكسيديشن للجلوكوز to release the energy in the form of ATP and also stimulate the liver or the hepatic cells to store the excess amount of glucose in the form of glycogen inside the liver. كأن حقنة الانسولين دي عملت شبه فرح في الجسم، خلاص الناس ما بقاش عطشان، ما بقاش جعان كمان، لان هو السيلز بتبقى جعانه لان الجلوكوز ما خرجش من البلاد كابيلاريز وراح للسيلز او راح للتيشو بتاعتنا. ربنا عمل لنا 2 هرمونز انتاجونايز اتش اذر. طبعا الجلوكاجون، والجلوكاجون الناس بتقول عليه ده فاستنج هرمون، يعني ده الهرمون الصيام. لما ابقى صايم بيجي كده لغايه وقت الفطار بتاعي الساعه 9 الساعه 10 الساعه 11 وانا بقيت جعان قوي. طب انا جعان مش قادر، انا هكمل الصيام بتاع اليوم ده ازاي؟ اجي بعد شويه كده ساعه ولا حاجه يبدا الجلوكاجون يشتغل، يحول لي الجلايكوجين اللي موجود في الليفر لجلوكوز، فيزيد الجلوكوز ليفل في البلاد عادي. بقت بالنسبه لي كاني انا اكلت، وبالتالي حافظ لي على الكونسنتريشن اوف جلوكوز ليفل ان بلاد. ارجع افطر، لما اجي افطر هيزيد الجلوكوز، الجلوكوز هيزيد، يرجع الانسولين بقى يطلع يشتغل علشان يرجع لي او يخزن لي الاكسس اماونت اوف جلوكوز ان ذا فورم اوف جلايكوجين انسايد ذا هيباتيك سيلز مره ثانيه، وهكذا. لكن طبعا في فرق ان بين الجلوكاجون والادرينالين هرمون، ان الادرينالين هرمون change the excess amount of glycogen or the glycogen that's stored inside the liver into glucose and increase the glucose level in blood that during the critical situation. But at the fasting situation, the glucagon stimulate the liver to change the excess amount of the glycogen that's stored inside the liver into glucose and also increase the glucose level in blood. يعني الادرينالين بيعلي الجلوكوز والجلوكاجون بيعلي الجلوكوز، لكن ده ليه كونديشن وده ليه كونديشن. الانسولين بيقلل الجلوكوز عشان يرجعه لي للنورمال كونسنتريشن اوف جلوكوز مره ثانيه. Mr. Yahya, what about the 6 glands or the glands responsible for the secretion of 6 hormones?
The glands which are responsible for the 6 hormones are found inside our bodies as male and as females.
Yes.
Concerning 2 males, the males have 2 testes between their legs. It is responsible for secretion of the testosterone hormone and the androsterone hormone. These 2 hormones are called the androgens. The androgen really, they are responsible for the secondary 6 characters, like the formation or the appearance of the mustache and the beard, and the strength of muscle, harshness of the sound. And also these hormones are responsible for stimulation of the maturity of the gonads. Okay, but concerning to the other one, which is the female, it is the gonads over here, they are called the ovaries. The 2 ovaries are responsible for secretion of 2 ones or 2 hormones. The first hormone is called the estrogen, and the second one, which is called the progesterone. They are responsible for, concerning to the estrogen, it's responsible for the appearance of the 6 characters for female, like the 6 characters that like accumulation of fats inside her body in special parts of her body. And also it is responsible for the menstrual cycle.
Regulates the
regulation of the menstrual cycle, because the girls when they reach to a specific age in her body time, in her time, okay, in her age, she is subjected to some situations or some changes inside her body, which are called the menstruation, Mr. يعني بيحصل كده في فتره معينه لما البنت توصل لسن معينه. طب مين اللي بيتحكم في الحكايه ديت؟ هو الاستروجين. But concerning to progesterone, this progesterone is responsible for it is responsible for the growth of the uterine walls to receive the embryo during pregnancy, Mr.
Yes, endometrium, by increasing its vascularity or increase blood capillaries that form the endometrium inside the uterus to prepare the uterus to receive the fetus. So the 2 male hormones are androgens and androsterone, which are called the androgens, or androsterone and testosterone. But in female, 3 hormones: estrogen, which is called the estradiol, of course, progesterone, and the relaxin hormone.
Yes.
What about the site of secretion of estrogen, progesterone, and relaxin hormone?
Concerning to relaxin hormone, it is secreted from something is called placenta.
Yes. هنبدأ الاستروجين الأول، نقول الاستروجين بيطلع منين والفانكشن بتاعته والباقي بعد.
Okay. Concerning to estrogen, it is secreted. Estrogen, it is secreted from a part.
Yes. From the Graafian follicle only,
yes,
of course.
the Graafian follicle, it is secreted from the Graafian follicle, which is found in the ovary.
Yes.
But concerning to
what about the function of the estrogen hormone?
Estrogen,
yes.
Estrogen, it is responsible for the secondary sex characters for the female.
Yes. So the increase in the appearance of the secondary sexual character and also regulates the menstruation cycle in female. But what about the progesterone hormone, about the site of secretion and also the function of the progesterone hormone?
Yes, progesterone, it is secreted from something is called the corpus luteum, okay? Yes. It is responsible for, it is responsible for increasing the thickness of the uterine walls during or vascularity, as you said, Mr.
يبقى احنا لما حاجه اتكلم على الاستروجين حاول is secreted from the Graafian follicle particularly, but the progesterone is secreted from the corpus luteum and also from the placenta at the 4th month of the pregnancy.
Yes, Mr.
The progesterone hormone increases the vascularity of the endometrium and adheres the endometrium in the uterine muscle to keep the fetus or to keep the pregnancy of the pregnant woman. So the progesterone hormone regulates the menstruations, regulate the growth of the endometrium and also adheres the endometrium in the uterine muscles and keep the pregnancy. So the deficiency of the progesterone hormone may lead to abortion.
Abortion or miscarriage.
Yes. What about the secretion, site of secretion of relaxin hormone and its function?
Yes, Mr. Really it is, or actually it is secreted from the uterus and also from the placenta. You know placenta اللي احنا بنسميها الجزء اللي احنا بنسميه المشيمة وكمان من اليوترس. And it is responsible for,
corpus luteum.
Yes, and also from the corpus luteum. So it is secreted from 3 different parts.
Yes.
Corpus luteum, placenta, and the uterus.
Yes.
And it is responsible for contraction of the uterus during relaxation of the uterus during pregnancy. So it is called relaxation. So it makes a relaxation of the muscles of the pelvis during pregnancy to allow the baby to get out.
Yes, that's at the end of the pregnancy.
Yes, Mr.
The 7th gland are called the gastrointestinal glands, which are responsible for the secretion of hormones in blood to regulate the digestive system, as that which is called the gastrin hormone, which is secreted from the stomach, that stimulates the stomach to secrete its gastric juice, and also the secretin and the cholecystokinin, which are secreted from a certain endocrine glands in the duodenum to stimulate the pancreas to release the pancreatic juice through the pancreatic duct or hepatopancreatic ducts inside the duodenum. So the 2 hormones which are called the intestinal hormones are the secretin and the cholecystokinin hormone. هنبدأ نعمل مجموعة من الأسئلة ونشوف الإجابات بتاعتها على الجزء اللي اتقال ونشوف إحنا قدرنا نوصل لقد إيه. في سؤال مهم كده بنشوف الامتحان يقول لي give the site of secretion and the function of each of the following. هنبدأ مستر يحيى بنتكلم عن what is the site of secretion and the function of the parathyroid hormone.
Parathyroid hormone, it is secreted from the parathyroid gland, Mr.
Yes.
يعني بيطلع من الباراثيرويد gland. It is responsible for keeping the calcium level in the body or in the level at a normal rate, Mr.
Yes, by increasing the calcium level in blood, so it's created during the deficiency of calcium ions in blood. What's the site of secretion and the function of the glucocorticoids, Mr. Yahya?
Glucocorticoids are secreted from the adrenal gland, okay, but from the cortex of the adrenal gland.
Cortex, yes.
Yes, but concerning to its function, the glucocorticoids are responsible for metabolism of the carbohydrates, especially glucose, Mr.
Of course. The same question, the site of secretion and the function of the mineralocorticoids as the aldosterone hormone. The site of secretion of aldosterone hormone.
Site of secretion of aldosterone hormone, it is secreted from the cortex of the adrenal gland, which is located over the kidney, so it is called the suprarenal gland. its function is very important. This hormone, which is the mineralocorticoid, it is responsible for controlling the minerals, some minerals in the body at the normal rate, is like sodium and is like potassium. Whenever you were talking about the sodium ions, they are very important for our body to some vital activities. So whenever it decreases, the mineralocorticoids are responsible for increasing their rate or their concentration by what is called the reabsorption again from the kidney tubules. But concerning the two potassium ions, نسبة البوتاسيوم ions, whenever it increases inside our bodies, it is responsible, these hormones are responsible for getting rid of the excess of these ions outside of our bodies.
Yes, the same question of the site of secretion and the function of the 6 hormones. What about the 6 hormones, the site of secretion?
The 6 hormones اللي هي الهرمونات اللي احنا بنسميها الهرمونات الجنسية.
Yes.
طيب احنا عندنا نوعين. طبعا first one, which is the 6 hormones, they are the main ones are secreted from the gonads.
The main site is of the gonads, of course, as
yes, but whenever we're talking about the hormones which are secreted from the cortex of the adrenal gland, we say that they are very important for making balance between the main ones and these hormones to appear, or for the appearance of the characters of males or females.
Means regulate them, the sexual maturity, and also regulate the menstruation cycle in females, and also the appearance of the male secondary sexual character and the spermatogenesis in males.
Yes.
So what about the site of secretion and the function of adrenaline and noradrenaline hormones?
Yes, adrenaline and noradrenaline, they are secreted from the medulla of the adrenal gland.
Yes.
They
what
are
about the function?
Yes, they are called the emergency hormones because they are responsible for number one, increasing the heartbeats. Okay, mister? Increasing the heartbeats, preparing our body for the emergency situations, and also increasing the rate of respiration to get oxygen gas, which is needed for our bodies to produce energy to escape from our enemies or whatever, because we are exposed to emergency situations. And also it is responsible for increasing the metabolism of glucose or carbohydrates. So they are called the emergency hormones, adrenaline and noradrenaline.
Of course, of course. So أبنائنا وبناتنا طلاب وطلبات الثانوية العامة، الحقيقة الوقت جري بتاع الحلقة بتاعتنا، فده كان آخر سؤال معانا في نهاية الحلقة. أنا بشكر مستر يحيى سالم، وإن شاء الله نتقابل إن شاء الله الثلاث الجاي في نفس الميعاد. شكرا لحضراتكم وإلى اللقاء.
شكرا لك يا مستر.